Mo Xiu Yao's hair turned white overnight, and Ye Li was left in unbearable grief. Lishan Academy had long been empty. Mo Xiu Yao looked at Ye Li and said sorrowfully that his debt had been repaid, and she no longer needed to wrong herself by staying at his side. He could not bear this kind of love given out of pity. Watching Mo Xiu Yao turn and leave, Ye Li felt as if her heart had been torn apart. Her face turned deathly pale, and her breathing grew rapid. She raised her hand and clutched her own throat, yet even that could not ease the bone-piercing burning pain inside her. Mo Xiu Yao, his eyes filled with tears, sat beside the nearby desk and lifted his brush to write. He wrote the divorce letter with life and death as witness. That night, in a daze, Ye Li wondered if she had gone mad. She should not be seeing those people because only a mad person could see what she was seeing. Someone held Ye Li's hand and said through sobs that he had simply been too lonely and that there should have been someone there to keep him company. During official hours, everyone looked at one another in silence, idle and uneasy, only hoping for a moment of peace. Mo Xiu Yao suddenly shouted and ordered them all to go back to work. A maid asked the princess consort if she was really going out before even eating breakfast. Mo Xiu Yao was grabbed by the collar and questioned. Had he driven Ye Li away? Had Ye Li gone back to Lishan? Only after hearing this did Mo Xiu Yao ask in return what had happened at Lishan. After his hair turned white overnight, Mo Xiu Yao had to leave for a while. By imperial order, Prince Ding was sent to Lishan as an imperial envoy, carrying silk, gold, and precious old ginseng on behalf of the emperor to visit the old people of Lishan. To the court, this was already considered a royal grace. The imperial envoy, Prince Ding, came to pay respects at the mountain and asked the princess consort where the people of Lishan Academy were. Where was Headmaster Su? Where was Master Zhu? Why could not even one person in charge be seen? Ye Li, still in a trance, answered that this person was her maternal grandfather, the headmaster of Lishan Academy. When she heard Mo Xiu Yao call him Headmaster Su, she hurriedly corrected him and told him to call him grandfather instead. Everyone became suspicious. The buildings of the academy were still there, but dust had gathered everywhere. The clothes and bedding that had been put out to air carried a heavy moldy smell, as if no one had touched or used them for many years. It did not look like a place where people had been living for a long time, since Lishan had been sealed off so tightly that even birds could hardly pass through. If those people were no longer in the academy, where else could they be? Someone reminded them that in the entire Lishan, aside from Princess Consort Ding, there was no one else. Ye Li was stunned. How could there be no one? In front of her eyes, the hallucinations continued. She introduced them one by one, saying that this was Master He and this was Master Zhu. How could there be no one? Mo Xiuyao stepped forward to comfort Ye Li and told Ali not to panic first. When they returned, he could slowly explain everything to her. Someone nearby pointed out that the rice field she mentioned looked as if it had not been cultivated for at least 6 or 7 years. Mo Xiuyao shouted for him to shut up, then continued comforting Ye Li, telling her not to be like this and not to only cry. In the First Jasmine, Marquis Muyang only needed 3 sentences to tear Mo Xiuyao and Ye Li apart. All he had to do was make Mo Xiuyao believe one thing, that Ye Li had married him only to atone for guilt. Mo Xiuyao was a man who could be struck by a hidden arrow on the battlefield and still smile while pulling it out. Yet in the study, when he vomited blood, it spilled down through the gaps between his fingers. The moment Mo Xiuyao collapsed, Ye Li stood frozen in place, clutching the explanation she had not yet managed to send out, or perhaps the explanation she had not yet gathered the courage to say aloud. Even her sleeve was stained red by the blood he had coughed up. When Mo Xiuyao woke again, what he wrote with his own hand was not a plea asking her not to leave. It was a divorce letter, but if the camera moved closer, one could see his hand as he wrote those words. That hand had once been pierced through by a spear at Snowbreak Pass and had never trembled. Yet now, the ink blurred twice beneath his shaking fingers. This was the most painful and unreasonable part of the entire matter. A man does not push someone away because he does not care. On the contrary, it is because he cares too much. He cares so deeply that only one thought remains in his mind. The place where he stands is a mountain of blades and a sea of fire. If Ye Li remains with him in that hell, there can only be one reason: guilt. Once that thought took root, the divorce letter was no longer coldness. It became the final punishment he gave himself. Earlier, when the two went to the tea house to listen to storytelling, the story on stage was about Lu Sanlang and Meng Xiaonyang, a talented scholar and a beautiful lady. Ye Li suddenly turned her head and asked a question that sounded completely unrelated. Could Lu Sanlang and Meng Xiaonyang really not stay together for a lifetime? And Mo Xiu Yao's answer back then now sounds like every word was foreshadowing, like a mine already buried beneath their feet. The world is unpredictable. People's hearts change easily. One thought rises, another thought falls. How they choose depends on themselves. It sounded like philosophy, but when it reached Ye Li's ears, the words, "people's hearts change," were sharper than a blade. Because what she feared most was another meaning hidden inside those words. Once he learned the truth, would he change? Then Ye Li did something small, foolish, and brave. She said that if there was a chance, she would take him back to Lishan to see the moon. What was Lishan to Ye Li? It was a place filled with the bones of her entire family. It was the prison where she had been locked away for 8 years. It was the place where she had burned the bodies of the entire academy alone and dug a grave for herself in advance. For Ye Li to be willing to take someone back there to see the moon meant she was willing to expose the dirtiest and most painful wound on her body for him to see. That was not a romantic invitation. It was a girl carrying a secret, using the only language she knew to ask indirectly for a promise. There would still be a future, right? Mo Xiu Yao did not answer. It was not because he did not want to. It was because he had worn his false mask for 10 years, and he had already forgotten how to speak with an uncovered face. The prison scene was the cleanest lesson in emotional destruction. Marquis Muyang knew he could no longer turn the situation around. When Qin Song, the son he had thought long dead, stood outside the prison door and called him father, his final revenge was not to slash anyone with a blade. It was to make Mo Xiu Yao cut off his own happiness with his own hands. He did it in 3 steps, each one as precise as a dissection. The first step was to provoke doubt. He asked whether Prince Ding had never been curious about who had deceived his elder brother and taken away the late emperor's edict. He did not need to fabricate everything. He only had to gently tear open a wound that Mo Xiu Yao had pressed down for 10 years. The second step was to define the matter. With the word deceived, he flattened the complicated truth that Su Wanzhou had been entrusted to safeguard the edict and that the Yi family grandmother had forcibly taken it away. In an instant, the Yi mother and daughter went from people implicated without knowing the truth to people who had benefited from it. The third step was the cruelest and most sinister. Did Ye Li truly want to marry him, or did she marry him because she felt guilty and wanted to compensate him? Was the way she looked at him true love, or was it atonement? Did Marquis Muyang know the whole truth? It did not matter. He only needed Mo Xiu Yao to believe this version. To Mo Xiu Yao, the chain was too heavy. The edict was taken away. His elder brother died indirectly because of it. The Black Cloud Cavalry and the entire Prince Ding manor were wrongfully condemned. Every link in that chain was something he had carried with his own life. Once Ye Li was placed in the position of someone who benefited from that chain, and once the idea of a marriage built on atonement was used to corrode the purity of her love, Mo Xiu Yao would rather have her hate him than stay by his side out of guilt. That was crueler than any poison. Poison kills the body, but Marquis Muyang destroyed Mo Xiu Yao's belief that he deserved to be loved. The pain lay in the fact that Mo Xiu Yao and Ye Li were not speaking the same language at all. When Mo Xiu Yao came back to find her, his voice was already hoarse, calm, and steady. It was so steady that it felt abnormal. He asked if her mother had taken the edict from his elder brother back then. Ye Li said yes, but her mother had not meant to deceive anyone. That single word, yes, was fatal. Even if it was followed by an explanation, even if the truth was that it had been entrusted for safekeeping rather than stolen through deception, that yes had already fallen into ears filled with Marquis Muyang's poison. It became the red mark pressed onto a confession. Then came the second question. Had Ye Li known the truth from the beginning? Yes, she had known. Then came the third question, but Mo Xiu Yao no longer even had the strength to finish it. Had she come to his side to repay a debt? Before he could finish speaking, he collapsed. Blood spilled from the corner of his lips. Ye Li's words, "That is not true," were stuck in her throat. Not even half a syllable reached his consciousness. This was the cruelest rhythm of the scene. The truth had already reached her lips, but the person meant to receive it had fallen first. What Mo Xiu Yao needed was not a list of facts. What he wanted to know was whether she loved him. Yet what Ye Li gave him were explanations, telling him that things were not as he thought. Their frequencies were always misaligned. It was not hatred. Hatred would have been simpler. Hatred could be shouted out, cursed out, fought out. But the divorce letter woven from love was fear wearing armor. Think about what was turning inside Mo Xiu Yao's mind right after he vomited blood. If the edict matter was seized by the Empress Dowager's side, Ye Li would become an accomplice tied to a rebellious faction. He was about to overturn the table and fight a life-or-death battle against the relatives of the imperial family. Every step was a gamble with his life. At that exact moment, another thought had been forced into his mind. She stayed beside you not because you are worthy, but because she owes you. For a man carrying a sea of blood and hatred, one could seize his military power, burn his manor, or assassinate him 10 times. But if one told him that the woman he loved stayed only because of guilt, the very foundation beneath him would be ripped away. So he chose the most painful solution. He tore Ye Li away from the title of Princess Consort Ding. With one divorce letter, he gave her freedom, safety, and a way out. When he burned the thing he had treasured, the veins on the back of his hand were stretched tight. He was not severing their love. He was solving what he believed was the only correct equation. If his world was destined to collapse, then at least it should not crush the only innocent person he loved. The only problem was that he filled in the answer without asking Ye Li. No one stopped him, and no one chased after him. Prince Ding Manor was silent through the night, quiet as a graveyard. Mo Xiu Yao sat in the study before the same desk where he had written the divorce letter. The candle flame flickered the entire night. The next day, the speed at which he sent people to investigate the old matter became even faster than before. Because somewhere deep in his subconscious, he was also searching for another possibility. What if he was wrong? But once some papers are signed and sealed, they are no longer just paper. They become a wall. When Ye Li left, she did not cry. In the preview, even her back as she returned to Lishan was straight. But what kind of place was Lishan? It was the place where, at 8 years old, she had burned a courtyard full of bodies alone. Her return was the same as carrying those unfinished words, "That is not true," back into the prison chamber she had built for herself. As for Mo Xiu Yao, when the truth was peeled open layer by layer, he finally learned that the edict had been taken by the Yi family grandmother. Su Wanzhou had only been entrusted to safeguard it. Ye Li had hidden the truth for so many years not because she had joined hands with anyone to deceive him, but because she did not dare touch the most painful part of herself. When the cold poison surged back together with regret, his hair turning white overnight was not a dramatic effect. It was an internal wound. By then, Mo Xiu Yao was no longer simply thinking that he had wronged Ye Li. He was thinking that he had personally sent her back to the place she should have escaped from most, and had even believed he was protecting her. Some mistakes are foolish, but once they are made, there is no way to erase them.